In Creo Parametric, you can define CNC manufacturing toolpaths for your parts. There are many aspects of setup, and one of those is your cutting data along with your stock materials. In this video, we're going to concentrate on how you get your different stock materials. So here I am in a different manufacturing model than I have been using just because I wanted something looking slightly differently. The first thing to know about is one of your config.pro options. Let me go to File, Options, and then Options, and Configuration Editor down at the bottom. I'm going to scroll down in my list to one that is called Pro Manufacturing MF TPRM directory. And this is going to be set to some folder. And this is where you're going to store your tool data. But more importantly, that's also where you're going to have your material list set up. Let me cancel out of here. I'm going to bring in a Windows Explorer window. Let me drag it in. This is that folder on my computer, and there is a file in here. Let me scroll down in the list, and the file is called MFG for manufacturing, WP for workpiece, material list.xml. Let's open up this file. I will right click on it and let's choose to edit it. And I'm going to use Notepad. Let's use something easier. Let's use Open with Notepad, something really simple. Okay, so that's good. Let me drag this other window out of the way. So this is the XML file for your materials. And so you can see that there's a bunch of header information. And then down here is where we would have our different materials. And I just have one material in here right now, HSS, for some high-speed steel. Let me close this and take a look at how we can create new materials. And so in this manufacturing model, I only have my reference model and a workpiece. I'm not at the point where I can actually define new materials. There are a couple things I'm going to need. I've covered this stuff in previous videos. For one thing, I'm going to need a work center. So let me choose let's use a lathe for this one. And so here we have the information. I'm just going to leave all the default information listed in here and then click the OK button. This is just something that I am going to need. And then I can go to the operation command and create a brand new operation. Now I've got my work center. Oh, I need a program 0. Let me turn on my datum axis display. That way I can go to the right side of my ribbon to create a coordinate system to use as my 0. I'll define it at the intersection of the axis and this top surface. And then for orientation, let's use this surface for the Z direction. It should be pointing up. And then for another reference, I don't know, let me just grab the default coordinate system and I'll use X to project X. And so this is enough to define the coordinate system for my program 0. I will click the OK button. Now I can resume the dashboard, and that coordinate system that I created is the program 0. That's just something that I needed to do. Anyhow, that allows me to get to the Options tab, and for the stock material from the drop-down list, here we see that HSS. You can also use the option for unspecified. But right here, this button is one way in which you can create a brand new stock material. I will click on the New button, and that opens up a little window over on the right-hand side. And let me create one. I'll just use the name Unobtainium. And hit the Enter key. And now I can hit the check mark. And so now for my stock material from this drop-down list, I have Unobtainium in addition to HSS. And so I'm going to leave everything else the same in this operation and hit the check mark in order to complete it. Now let me bring back my Windows Explorer window. Let's go to that XML file. I will right mouse click and hold and edit with Notepad++ again. And if you take a look in the file, here we have another line below the HSS. We now have the name Unobtainium. And you can manually add materials here in your XML file. There's no need to create a manufacturing model and go through all the other different setup steps like reference model and workpiece and what else did I do? Work center, operation, just to be able to define new materials. Let me hit the enter key and let me save myself some time and effort with some Control C and then down here and some Control V. And now I'm going to rename this. Let's create, and the reason I'm using silly names is that I haven't looked things up. Adamantium. What does Wolverine use? Adamantium. Okay, so oops. Give me a second while I am struggling with WordPad or Notepad++. Okay, adamantium. This is good for my other material. Let's hit the save button and I will minimize Notepad++ and let's minimize the Windows Explorer. So let's say I want to create a brand new operation. And again, I've got my work center, my program 0. Now when I go to the options tab, hey, I have that material. So it will actually read the XML file live for your different materials that you want to use. So I could choose adamantium as my stock material. I really don't want to create a second operation, but just for giggles, I will hit the check mark in order to create that. So anyhow, I have created the new material in two different ways. So how do we end up actually using that material? Well, that's where your cutting tools come in. Because I have an operation, now I can go to my cutting tools command, and there are no cutting tools set up in here. Let me create a brand new one. And so I've got the information down here. If you go to your cut data tab, you have a drop-down list for the application, and this is going to be roughing or finishing. And then we have our drop-down list. So here are the different stock materials that we have. So for example, I've got my adamantium, unobtainium, HSS. Let me choose the unobtainium. And then we can start entering our cutting data. And so for our speed, I'm just going to use a value. Let's use 300. I'm just making up some numbers here. And 1,000. Feed and a radial depth of 5. I don't know. Okay, so I've entered in some different information here. Let me hit the apply button. And so now I've got the tool listed in here. Let me go to file and then save this tool. And so this has been successfully saved under the name T0001.xml. Let me click the OK button out of the tool setup dialog box. Now let's take a look at that tool. Hold on, I'm going to put in a quick edit here. Okay, just wanted to go to my folder. And so now if we take a look in the list, here we have the XML file. I will right mouse click on this file and choose edit with Notepad++ again. And so here we have all the information about this cutting tool. And if we take a look down underneath tool cut data, here we have the material. Here we have that unobtainium that I had specified as well. And so there it calls in the information. Here we have the different parameters I specified, like the tool spindle RPM and the tool feed rate and tool feed per unit information as well, and the tool radial depth. And so there we have that information stored here in the tool XML file. And let's see. Oh yeah, one other place I want to mention where we have that information. Let me go to the Turn tab. By creating our work center and our operation, a new tab was created in here for turning. And here are some of the different NC sequences that you can create in here. And so let's use profile turning. So if I want to create one, let me choose for the tool, the one tool that I had created. Whatever. Yes, we're going to copy the data. And so now if I go to go to my tool manager. Sorry, I had a little memory there. Here, if I go to the cut data, we see that we have the adamantium listed in here. Okay, I realized my mistake. So if we take a look in the stock material, here it is adamantium for this particular operation. Let me hit the cancel button and say yes. And so let's cancel out of here as well. And let's go to, I believe this is the active operation. Let me edit definition and let's go to our options tab and change this back to the unobtainium and then hit the check mark. And so now when I'm creating a brand new sequence, I think I choose that I was going to do profile turning, whichever one. And so let's choose our tool from the drop-down list. And yes, I will read in the data. Now when I click on the Tool Manager button, and then we will go to the Cut Data tab. Hey, here we have roughing, here we have that unobtainium material, and there is my cutting data that is filled in here. Okay, so there you have it. Let me click the OK button and then hit the check mark, just complete out of there, even though I didn't really set up my profile turning operation. But that is how you can set up your different materials for your stock materials as the basis for defining your cutting data.